for Reed Soccer. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah. I played in at USC.
amazing.
Charlie, did you say you played soccer at USC?
Hmm.
Yeah, kind of brushed over that
I had
like it
no
was.
idea. Wow.
That's like saying, yeah, I
It
played.
was 30 years ago. That was, you know.
On the field in the dock, and he looked like you never lost it, man. It's like riding a bike. You just looked comfortable and
Oh,
right.
I've lost it. Don't kid yourself.
Those shorts fooled
I,
everyone then.
I assure you.
We
You ever
all
get a green dildo tossed at you?
No, but the day's not over yet.
we are live, and somebody jumped into this show hearing about a dildo. So let's riff off that. Uh, thank you guys. Another episode of the Union of Unwanted. We got a great cast of friends today. Let me just remind you real quick, you can find all our links at the unionoftheunwanted.com. We live stream this every other Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, typically. Don't hold us to that, but we try our best. And yeah, and then you can find the audio everywhere within, typically 48 hours after the live stream. You can find the audio on all the places you find audio podcasts. And then we also or put the video on our Rumble channel. So just in case it disappears from YouTube one day, I know a lot of people are coming back, but of course we know that that's not a permanent home. You can find the videos also on Rumble. So just search the Union of the Unwanted and find all that. And that's it. And then this is awkward because we're gonna go to Brandon and he's gone. And but there he is, he's back. But yeah, we're just gonna. There's a lot of different things I think I wanted to hit on. Nothing I was really strong about, opening up with. But Brandon has a little bit of updates and info and stuff he's been working on to kind of get the conversation going. And then if everybody else can kind of include themselves as we go, like usual, and we can take this conversation anywhere and everywhere. So yeah, Brandon, what's up? Thanks for joining us, and I guess get this party started.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be here, guys. Always an honor for sure. And thank you all for hanging out and listening and expanding your reality to this degree. I snuck off camera real quick to grab this book that we just published for Philip Kinsella. This is our publishing house, Rediginal Publishing. All words are made up, so I figured I'd take a run, and it means ridiculously original, Rediginal. So we had a really cool artist work on the cover for us. Just this is the plug for his book, forward written by Josh Cutchin. He wrote Where the Footprints Are, Ecology of Souls, all kinds of stuff. So anyway, very cool book, The Eternal Avatar. So I'm gonna plug that. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and Lulu right now. Anyway, so yes, what we were talking about is the solution-based community that I've been involved in for the past 3 years, and really strongly over the past two. Last year, I expatriated, is what it's officially referred to as. I'm no longer a U.S. citizen, and everybody pretty much volunteers for that if you don't live in the 10 square mile radius of Washington, D.C., or Puerto Rico, or something like that. States don't count because those are independent sovereign nations, but or work for the federal government. So if those two things don't apply to you, you've been checking that box, U.S. citizen under penalty of perjury, and choosing to be that. It's voluntary servitude. It's what they call the 14th Amendment citizen. And citizen in that degree is spelled with a lowercase, and case and words and structure and format, syntax, parse, grammar, all of that, very important. Everybody, if you haven't got a copy of the Constitution, highly recommend it, guys. There is a lot of beautiful things in here, like it showed us that the 13th Amendment abolished outright slavery. 14th Amendment took it into your hands to where you need to check that box to say, yes, I'm a slave. Yes, I'm a slave. And this is really the crux of it, guys. It doesn't need to Molotov cocktails. It doesn't need to murk CEOs. This is how you do it. We're bleeding it dry. We are starving it out. I did what's called my revocation of election at the same time. They were submitted at the very same time. Those two different things showed this reality that I'm no longer interested in subscribing to the income tax part of things, which is voluntary, and we can get into that if you want. And then also, I'm no longer to be treated under the jurisdiction of a U.S. citizen because I am a national. I'm not that. So it's a fascinating world, and honestly, this is where the freedom is. I haven't talked about aliens or anything cool in a long time. I've been learning about IRS codes and forms and trusts and bonds and PMAs, private membership associations, to where now we don't give you everything we give out's free, and you donate to us, therefore there's no taxes. Plus, because I'm a national, I'm considered a foreign entity anyhow, so any trust that I'm the grantor of is automatically in a grantorship of a foreign jurisdiction. It's fucking fascinating. Highly recommend. I'm going to go ahead and plug the community website, breedivine.com. And one of my mentors, Bree Divine, Divine, Bree, by the way. And then Joe Lustica, Lustatica, Joe Lustica. Those are the folks. And you can go to Joe Lustica's Rumble right now, type it in, all one word, and he has got hours and hours and hours and hours of video. He has a playlist up there of 63 videos that's just definitions, and it is worth its weight in gold. It is a fascinating world, and all the stuff, the media, the bread circus, all the things out there is to make sure that as few people as possible figure out what I'm talking about right now. Because it's all jurisdiction, guys. You've got to choose to be a part of that system. In United Nations, everybody knows that you have the right to choose the laws in which govern you. And so it's a very interesting parasitic entity that is settled over us, but it's breakable. And really what happens in this case is you start taking fiduciary responsibility of your Social Security number, for instance. My living trust that I just started will house my birth certificate and Social Security number. I just filled out 2 forms to make that happen. Now, what happens then is anyone trading my Social Security account now owes me money. It's in trust. They can't touch it. There's all sorts of power that's associated with this. And the way that I picture it is somebody else has been playing with a toy of yours, and you simply say, hey, that's my toy. I want it back. And they go, okay, here you go. That's it. There's no fight. There's no argument. There's no fear. I'm on the IRS website 3 times a week. I'm getting forms from them. I have no fear with them whatsoever. I have a wonderful relationship. They are here as clerks for us. They are intermediaries between us and the Treasury. So it's very important to maintain that relationship, all that good stuff. So anyone out there claiming to be a sovereign citizen has not done the work. Those are oxymoronic terms. One means slave, one means free. And this is honestly, guys, if you want to go spiritual with it, this is how you beat the soul trap. This is a big deal, a very big deal. This is it, honestly. I'm here to take any questions. I'm very new to this. I'm only 3 years in, but I'm here to help.
So wait, this isn't the sovereign citizen thing? Can you tell me what the sovereign citizen thing is and then what this is?
Yeah, sovereign citizens in a word are retards. And what they are doing is that they are not looking at code. They are in it for the wrong reasons. They're in to gain a system, not doing research. The term sovereign citizen is oxymoronic. One means a slave. A citizen means a slave. With a lowercase c, 14th Amendment, it's right here. But a sovereign individual is someone who governs themselves. And if you are self-governed, you cannot be a citizen, because citizen means under the jurisdiction thereof. And it's under the jurisdiction of that 10 square mile radius in Washington, D.C. That's their reach. And that's why you have to choose to be a part of it.
So do you have a passport?
Yes, but I changed my status. So what that means is now I'm no longer a U.S. citizen, and I have a template. You write an explanatory statement. You check a few boxes. You make sure that your endorsements are number 8 and number 9. We can go over that. And then you submit. And then what happens is they go, yeah, cool. Okay, that's your status. No argument, no fight. So yes,
and they can't like revoke that, take that away from you. Because if you were, if the shit hits the fan and that changes, you're a person without a country. That did cause people problems in World War II and Einstein. That's a long story, but that's he betrayed his own principles by saying, hey, wait, I don't have a country. We should have a world government or something.
It's a great question, because one of the biggest things in here is supplanting the fear. The fear has been the biggest parasite, because this is all mind. This is all mind. We all know it. We rant about it forever. Government means in Latin. Anybody? Government.
I was trying to, it's supposed to be like to control the mind, but I was trying to find that. Does MENT mean mind?
Yes.
Right.
And to govern means to rule over. Even things like saying that you understand. If somebody says, hey, do you understand? A judge says, do you understand? You say, yes. Now you are in the authority thereof. Thank you. So I have replaced the word. Actually, Jim Gale, Food Forest Abundance, he got me on that rant. He is a hardliner understander, and I will cross it out on paperwork when I'm signing it. I understand. I don't stand under anyone else's authority.
I will tell you, my friend Sean David Morton went to jail for 10 years fighting this fight, and they gave him cancer. And
Well,
he-
I'm not fighting a fight, which is great. So if people are looking at it as a fight, they're going to receive that treatment. But that's not what I'm here for. I'm just unsubscribing from the nonsense and doing it properly.
That's what he did, but the SEC came after him.
How do you approach it not as a fight? Because people are defensive in those type of situations. So how are you able to work with them in a way to further what you're doing?
Well, it's interesting that it's a great question, honestly, because what this is an understanding, right? It's, do I have the authority to govern myself or not? Am I scared that there's going to be repercussions because I choose to follow a different system than the one that's been offered? And it's a mind fuck, to be honest with you. It's more interesting than any psychedelic I've ever taken, because you are undoing the old as you're learning a new language, a new banking system, learning how all of it's hidden and protected. Now, what I will say is, the most challenging thing is, think of any job, okay? Think of a bank job. Do you think most bank tellers know how to set up a trust, or the difference between revocable and irrevocable? No, is the answer. So when you walk into a place like that, they are barely prescribed to do the bare base minimum of their job, and then they're just wanting to get home so that they can do whatever. So whenever you approach most folks in this, it is a challenge to tell people that, yes, the form that you're handing them, even your employer, for instance, instead of a W-4, anything like that, you do a federal withholding, a W-8-BEN. This is a very official form. You can go look it up on IRS right now. That means that you're the beneficiary of the withholder, but a lot of people have issues with their employer taking it because they've never seen it before. It doesn't have a V on the end of it or a W or something. So with this as well, when I went to go get my passport done, Weatherford, Texas, a beautiful woman put me in a back room because I'm the second person to ever do it.
Wow.
And we sat there, and she had a really rough day, this government employee. She was crying. She had a really rough one, and she needed to walk out of the room to make sure the codes I was using were correct, because it's just an unknown to them. They don't know that we
Wait,
can.
can I ask you something? One sec. So let me ask you something. So what is the status? What is your status with all the work that you've done? What's your status?
National, and then national owes its allegiance
Well,
to
what
a
is okay, but do you feel that the United States of America, being a citizen of the United States of America, is something you're no longer interested in?
Correct.
Or you're not interested in being governed in America? I mean, I still like, we do, if you go look at, say, George Washington's farewell address, like, do you still feel pride, like you want to be an American citizen, or you're just done with that? You just live here and you're a national in this land. I'm just trying to understand the definition of what that means in the long term. If a lot of people decided to do what you're doing, what would that mean?
That would mean no more, no more Council of Foreign Relations. That would mean no more proxy wars, no more adrenochrome, no more child, anything that they're doing with them. The deal with this is it's, again, starving the beast out. If you're not participating in a system, it's got nothing to fuel itself on. Now,
So, but what you're defining as the beast is the government of the United States of America?
the federal corporation that is laid over the top of our beautiful landmass that is now sitting over everything, capitalizing states and making them federal zones, right? So there's a difference between in Texas, which is a jurisdictional term, or on the landmass of Texas. And depending on how you phrase it, your language puts you into jurisdiction. This is why language is so important, all the way down to the abracadabra, as I speak, I create. And within that framework, so too, you determine your sentence. Your prison sentence is literally spoken by word. This understanding comes with knowing that whenever you say you're in something, you are holding yourself up to the jurisdiction thereof. I am of the landmass on Texas, not in Texas capital. It's very different. They're spelt the same. Both are capitalized, but they're very different things. They're two different things. And it's the recognizing and the subtracting from. It's the unsubscribing from the federal jurisdiction. And what's more is the founding fathers would be very much on my side. This is what puts me in what's called the republic. So I don't use a zip code address anymore. ZIP. Does anybody know what that is an acronym for? ZIP, zip code. Zone Improvement Project. So what that means is that that's a jurisdictional term of you're in the project. So technically, if you're writing a zip code on anything and claiming that that is where you reside, then you are claiming that you are under the jurisdiction of that project. So everybody lives in the projects at that point. Now, what I do, and anybody can do this right now, go to USPS.com. type in your go to zip code by address, look up your address. Whenever you click that, it's going to come up with a box. It's going to have a route number on it, an R or a C next to it, three numbers, and then over to the other side, 2 more numbers. That is what's called your rural route code. Okay. There are 2 different countries here. The federal nonsense one, the parasitic entity everybody checks a box to be a part of because they have to set it up that way because nobody would choose to do it otherwise. And then there's something called the Republic, which is what the founding fathers and all this is built on anyway. That's the United States of America. Whenever you look at something that reads the lowercase, uppercase U, United States uppercase, that is the federal corporation. Lowercase is the Republic. That's what I'm a part of. And that's what's the point. That's what's here for all of us to enjoy. And all you have to do is subscribe to it.
All of this linguistic, I don't know, analysis is fascinating, but I struggle to imagine that a court would actually care. Has this been tested?
It has. I mean, I know people who have lost in this case. I'm not saying that what he's saying is invalid, but I do know people who have lost. And it's not because they took it on as a mission to fight. It's because if you have a big team of lawyers and you are really versed in the language, as he said, the language is really important. And if you're confident in representing yourself, there are people who've won as well. But they do go after people. And I personally know people who've lost. So
yeah, most of the people that are interested in this worldview usually aren't seeking out a fight. They're in fact trying not to fight, but the fight gets brought to them. So that's my concern.
Yeah,
linguistics really does matter.
The linguistics,
like the recent Supreme Court decision that if you declare, am I detained? If they can't answer you, well, that changes the whole atmosphere of the court, but it doesn't prevent the police officer from tasing you and handcuffing you and killing you.
But I also don't want to give up on America. Like, I understand the sovereign citizen and all of that, but I also think what they intended before at least 1912 or, multiple things before that, I love the idea of what the founding fathers and the Federalist Paper, and maybe we haven't achieved it yet. It's a more perfect union we're supposed to be working towards. But anyone that's ready to say, I don't want to be a part of this, that's sad, because I think we should be striving to each of us be causing a ripple effect, as Ricky called the show, to make this a more perfect union. We're better than this. What's happened is that our country has been infiltrated. JFK, infiltration instead of invasion. His whole speech, why he got shot, is really what I hope Americans now, at least all of us on Union of the Unwanted that have been hanging around here for years. I've been banned from YouTube since 2020, but I will tell you, I still have an audience because people still want to be part of something great. And I hate to think, you have to bail out.
I agree with your motivations, and I share it. I mean, that's the whole reason I'm in this fight too, is that I want to improve the system as it exists. But I do also respect and appreciate, and I think that those same ripples are caused by people who do see things differently, have perhaps a more pessimistic view when it comes to whether or not this is reformable, and they start to build outside of the existing system. The immediate thing that comes to mind is the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire and really just the Free State Project more broadly. I mean, those people are radical lunatics, and I love every single one of them. And it's like they are also creating change. I mean, you put kind of bottom up pressure on the system, saying, "Hey, if you guys continue to abuse us, we will break away." So I think it's all throw the whole kitchen sink at this son of a bitch.
I would just like to say, I know, Mel, you talked about like the education system and how you said for the last 4 decades, I would argue it goes even further back. I encourage everybody who's not familiar to look into a book. It's called The Poison Loving Cup, and it was written in 1927. So it's talking about really like, we're going 100 years back, and it was writing about, when the founders first got here and how the education system really since the late 1800s. I won't go into the whole thing. I mean, I would say we'd start with Wilhelm Wundt and the Leipzig connection, John Dewey, downstream from there. But I'll save everybody the spiel because it's a whole long trail. But I think that really most people in this country are not familiar with how our country was founded. and they're not familiar with even the founding principles of this country. Like you were saying about reading the Constitution, most people can't even name the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, let alone have read the Constitution. Somebody else was talking about the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist. I was reading the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist a few years ago, rereading them. And I remember sending a paragraph to a bunch of friends, and they're very erudite. Many of them have advanced degrees. They could not, I don't know if they couldn't read it or they couldn't comprehend it, but this was fourth grade reading level back then. And my friends with advanced degrees, and these are very bright people, so this is not to be pejorative or to call them stupid, but this is a byproduct of our education system. They truly could not discern what was in this short paragraph, which was considered fourth grade reading level back then. But most importantly, people don't understand what the Declaration of Independence was all about. You talk about the Free Project, New Hampshire. Unfortunately, I can, resonate with the sentiment of, the libertarians wanting to break away from, as in the Declaration of Independence outlines. I think it's something like 35 times they use the word usurpations. I mean, it's just over and over and over again. That's really what they were, screaming about. And certainly the amount of usurpations is just infinite now. But most people, the big difference is that they don't have an anchoring in the metaphysical and ontological roots that the Declaration of Independence was predicated upon. They went back and forth, and every single word in that document, which, by the way, is the only document in history to my knowledge. The French did do a declaration that didn't last very long that was predicated on our Declaration of Independence, but even theirs was different. And what was different about it really was the ontology. And the ontology is what is so important. This idea, that we were all, created equally and endowed by our creator with inalienable rights, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is such a profound statement. And most people don't have any understanding of what it actually means.
Courtenay, I want to just interrupt you for a sec. Did you see Tim Kaine tell the whole world that our rights come from the government and not from God? And that apparently the idea that our rights come from God makes us like Iran?
I did not, but this is the problem. This is exactly the problem. Yeah.
She's not being hyperbolic. That's verbatim what he said. I mean, and he said this is very dangerous because this is the same sort of theocratic outlook of the Iranians. It's like, hey, fucko. that's what the founding fathers, like, you swore an oath to the Constitution when you took office. I mean, but the real problem is that, I mean, he's a Democrat, but the real problem is that we have voters that know so little about our founding and so little about what you're discussing right now that they would vote for people like that, like truly un-American monstrosities.
And if rights come from politicians, then that takes power away, or it gives them power. Like their power comes in people believing that they are the ones who grant them rights. So they have to say that as Democrats, if something above them gives them rights, then that makes them lower on the totem pole.
Well, exactly. If they are the gods, there can't be a God giving us right.
Exactly it. It's all constructivism and it's all self-apotheosis. And unfortunately, the libertarians goes in that direction as well because it's not rooted in the metaphysical grounding.
I disagree with that. I mean, what are you basing that off of?
Because there's no ontological, like their whole foundation comes from Kant, Immanuel Kant, which is pure constructivism. It doesn't come from this the created order. I'm not saying you necessarily have to be a religious person. Our founders are very clear about that there's freedom of religion. That's why it is the First Amendment, right? The First Amendment is freedom of religion. Freedom of speech is downstream from that because we have freedom of consciousness and free will.
At least in modern legal parlance, religion is defined as a strongly held belief. So you can be an atheist and be religious.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I agree with that.
Absolutely. So, Courtenay, would you say that, like, the fact that the foundational principle of libertarianism is the non-aggression principle, that's not about a human being, that's about a behavior that's not allowed, and that's it?
Exactly. It's behavioralist. It's constructivist.
And then the thing that I'm noticing what you're saying. I didn't realize, I didn't have the word for it, but the transhuman thing, or even the technocracies, AI, all of that stuff is
Bingo.
it's ignoring the the unique and nuanced reality of the human nature of the human being.
Our fixed nature. We're
And
not raw.
that's our only hope, I think, because if it's true and they don't recognize that, they're not really preparing for what's going to manifest after they try to change, you know, the very nature of our relationships with each other and the earth. And so maybe there's the hope in that.
I think there is. I think that's the only defense we have, quite honestly. And it's why I call what they are doing the technological immunization of the eschaton. They're trying to create a simulacra. That is what I call it. And I think that's exactly what it is, because they're trying.
You're smarter than most people, but I can get it from your vibe.
So you're saying they're bringing on the end of the world by making there's nowhere else to grow.
And creating the simulacra, right? It's not, they're bringing heaven on earth. There is no heaven on earth. And so they're terraforming the earth in order to do it. I think it's
Courtenay, you might remember from our interview that Jacques Ellul said that this world is a death cult.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And
what's a simulacra? I don't know what's that mean?
So the best way to explain a simulacra would be, this is Baudrillard's term, but the best way to explain it is like, you think about a fruit, like maybe you've got an orange, right? The real orange, and it tastes like orange. And then you start to make orange juice. So you add some sugar to it, you squeeze out the pulp, you make it in a liquid, but it's still got the essence of orange. Then you take orange flavor, a bunch of chemicals, and you start to make this candy. It kind of tastes like orange, but it's not really anywhere near even related to an orange anymore. It's just a bunch of chemicals with an orange flavor.
It's like purple drink. Purple is considered a flavor now.
Right. Yeah.
I gotta say real quick. I agree with you. Yeah, Mises did lean on Kant, but Rothbard did not. Right. Rothbard was very much like he worked off of Mises's work, and he established really our property rights structure based off of natural rights. So he did do the
more on Locke. So it was more contractual than it was. So it's property.
Sure. Right. But the point being that it's
Locke was a contractarian, right? The social contract. That is not the same ontology at all.
Well, it may not be the same ontology, but they still did function off of natural rights, believing that it's rights that supersede state authority.
Rights, though. It's contract rights, property rights. They're not.
Yeah, but all right. Well, I don't want to sidetrack us.
Difference, and I understand most people weren't trained in philosophy, so you start having these conversations without having the definitions laid out. So I understand that
if you read Rothbard on abortion, I think that makes your point. So I just saw a Twitter handle the other day that said Rothbard was right about everything except for abortion. I'm like, totally, that's so true. But his argument about abortion is this person is trespassing on this other person. I would say that person is invited and then the door locked behind them, which you knew it would.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'm just saying he is talking about it in that competing rights thing without recognizing something special about human life.
I completely agree. That's the one area of sincere, deeply held disagreement I have from Rothbard.
But I think that's her point. Like that's the essence of it.
Yeah, it shows exactly where his metaphysics lie and what it's building upon. And it is much more Lockean. It's not natural rights. Natural rights, where do they come from? They come from God. That is what the Declaration of Independence codified.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Well, this has been a fascinating education. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
I got a whole bunch of new words to look up later tonight.
I guess I am truly not a real libertarian because I do believe in natural rights and I believe they come from God. So.
Right. I know, like the sentiment of libertarianism, I resonate with. I really appreciate it, and I think most of them are coming from a really good place. Like their heart is in the right place, but where they think they're fighting for freedom, they are fighting for freedom. They're not exercising free will, and they're different. They're not the same. Freedom is a radical end. And usually it's a collectivist end, whereas free will is a gift from God. And it's a gift because he believed that we are, because he created us as moral and rational beings. We're rational beings that can adjudicate morality. And then we have free will as a vehicle to be able to pursue morality and virtue.
And that's why we're surrounded by propaganda that seeks to subvert the rational part of us and trigger us to take every single action and make every single decision based purely on emotional lizard brain.
Exactly. I mean, we are emotional beings too, but we are.
And emotions are rational.
Yeah,
that it's a fallacy to say that they're not rational. They are rational, but they can be undisciplined. If they're undisciplined, they're dangerous. It's like freedom. The Christian concept of freedom is the choice between goods. It's not libertinism.
Exactly. Libertinism is much more akin to freedom. So when you think about people like Aleister Crowley, he talked about freedom all the time.
Do what thou wilt.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
You know, what did Hegel say? He said that freedom was the, Geist towards the world spirit. It was the collective end, which he believed that humans cannot have any freedom at all without complete subservience to the state. The state equal God, right? Because again, if they invert this, it gives them power. Illegitimate power, in my opinion, because it disrupts the natural order, but it gives them the power. So of course they want everybody to believe this, and this is why they've eroded the education so that we don't have metaphysics in education.
Yeah, and it ultimately ends up in their own destruction as well as taking down the rest of society with them.
It's the liberal arts they do away with because they're for the liberty.
Of course. Yeah.
Well, they haven't done away with liberal arts, but they sure have bastardized them to the point that
Well, I mean, like STEM. That people aspire to have a school that's STEM, but that just like the Greek slaves and the Roman times were not taught the liberal arts because they were meant to not really understand that. Even though they were smart and functional, they were the accountants and stuff.
It makes you the cogs in the machine in the workforce, right?
Oh, they're the betas and the gammas.
Yeah, I'm not even sure people are being educated to be functional in a workforce anymore. I mean, it's so bad.
Well, they're being taught to code, that's for sure. Cybersecurity is the one thing you're going to get a job in.
Yeah.
Yeah, for 12 more months until AI can replace all of them.
Exactly. I was just going to say that.
Clint, I was in Southern California this last weekend, and I was thinking of you because you and I are both
SoCal boys.
So Southern California people who now reside elsewhere. And I was in a Subway grabbing a sandwich, and as I'm looking at the one person working in the Subway and the 7 people in line, I am reminded of the $20 fast food minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking going, ownership's making a calculation, and soon you guys are all going to be replaced by robots.
Oh, guaranteed.
So man. What do you train the next generation for? If you can see the economics behind it, you're about to get priced out of the market. The robot doesn't miss the bus, doesn't show up late, doesn't have a fight with his girlfriend, doesn't show up high. They're going to make some accountant's going to look at a number on a spreadsheet and go, $22 an hour. It's robots.
Use AI, leverage AI. That's
well,
what they're trained to.
And the
of course,
big problem.
Go ahead. Looking at the dynamic culturally, I live in Southeast Asia, and I was just in a mall recently, and the hardware store at the mall, which is like a mega hardware store, it had like 200 employees inside it. You practically stumbled over them because they're quite cheap. So I was thinking about what was just said, they're not going to replace these workers with AI. Well, why? Because the AI won't burn down the mall. If you don't give these people work, they're going to burn down the mall.
Right, that's the only job that AI can't take is protester, and so you have UBI, as Ricky said in the chats here, and so you give enough money, and then you just have all the young people who are trained to follow orders, while the elite children are trained to give orders, and all of them just become professional protesters.
Yeah,
this is a really big problem because I've got two very younger brothers, very weird generational gap. I'm like 20 years older than both of them, and there is no entry level work. I mean, like it just doesn't exist. So all of the high schoolers, because all of these jobs have been absorbed by robotics or whatever else, and then also because minimum wage in California has been escalated to a point at which an employer just thinks it's laughably ridiculous to hire a kid who doesn't know anything to pay them $25 an hour. And they're right. They shouldn't be getting paid that much. But as a consequence, all of these kids, they never get their first step on the ladder. So it's like, if you don't have some sort of nepotistic avenue for your first employment, you're basically toast. And I'm very nervous about that.
I have relatives that are fairly high up in like banking and all that, and they tell me that no graduate period that they could hire is qualified.
Yep.
So they know they have to budget 3 years to train the people they hire if they're fresh college graduates.
But I'm saying I had 3 or 4 jobs in high school. I worked all through college. I was probably on my 8th or 9th different job by the time I graduated college. And these guys, like maybe they Uber Eats driver, a little bit here and there. And like, that's all any of them do. It's just,
and they smoke weed the entire time. Every Uber Eats driver is like 4 teenagers all high, which is fine. But like you're saying, it's not something that's going to give them an opportunity to progress in the future.
Exactly. It's not the building blocks to something bigger and better, sustainable, or compensation level at which they might be able to purchase a home and establish a life, get married, have kids, any of that. I know I sound like a Luddite, but I'm very nervous about that generation.
Clint, are we tolerating this? There's also another point to that. Hostesses. I was a bartender for like 15 years.
Yep.
Hostesses, bartenders, all of that, hospitality. It has been so downgraded since COVID. Mm-hmm. that they don't even think they have to show up. I have friends that own restaurants, this and that. Like, the generation that is coming up also has no concept of dealing with other humans. I really do believe that there is going to be a backlash to this. I can't stand when I call somewhere and it's like 6 AIs in a row. Like, I really think that the opportunity possibly in America is for people to double down on humans and double down on, no, we're not going to do this. Like, I spent 22 years in Hollywood. I think every movie that uses AI should have to give a disclaimer in the beginning that this movie is AI. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, like, we are not teaching people about purpose, about doing a good job, about, and I just think nothing will replace hospitality and customer service. Yes. And I think people have had enough.
That kind of thing, yeah.
Maybe not yet.
But what they're doing with the AI executive order and the other stuff that they're hyper investing, like they're motivating hyper investment into AI. So that'll effectively make it develop much more quickly. And even if a lot of that stuff falls by the wayside, and as I expect, we'll have a giant, massive bubble collapse like we did with the tech 25 years ago or 20 years ago. But then you'll have all of these tools that have been paid for already, and they exist. And that's just, once you lower the cost of capital like that, the trade-off between the marginal cost of capital, which would be nothing, and the marginal cost of labor, it'll really screw that up. So people might not like it, but they're going to get what's cheaper.
Exactly. That's the problem, is that just from a purely competitive standpoint, all employers are going to be so incentivized to go away from human labor that I don't think that, some disclaimer before a movie or any of that other stuff is actually going to stop it. And well, I agree with everything you just said, Mel. I'm sympathizing with that generation because they also, in their formative years of high school, we're locked down, social distance, mask, like, so everybody laments the fact that they're not capable of having conversations with human beings and they're so fucking weird. And you're right. All of that's true, but it's all a consequence of like real abuse that these kids suffered. And if you have an entire generation like that, we can, you know, we can wag our fingers at them and be like, be better, be normal. What's wrong with you? Or we can actually have a conversation with them and see if we can help them. And I think that's the direction I'm leaning. Is
I would agree with that. Absolutely. Because what if the undersea cables get cut that affects us like it is right now in the Middle East and Asia, which has historically cutting the undersea cables has been a way to control information. The British did in World War I to prevent Germany from being able to communicate and to intercept their transmissions. If that were to happen over here, what is everybody who's so reliant on TikTok and everything online their entire life going to do if they don't have these social skills that they can use offline?
Well, look at the TikTok ban for just like a day. What was the reaction to that?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
chaos.
I say three things. One is it's not going to be UBI, it's going to be CBI, conditional based income. So there's like a social credit type of thing. It's not just going to be a universal blanket kind of.
Well, I don't know. Anyone here a sci-fi fan?
What?
Yeah, science fiction. The Expanse. Everyone knows The Expanse. People who've watched The Expanse see what a global government looks like. And it's not nice. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible. And there's a UBI or CBI, but people are just making their way through life on their own. They're not really getting any help.
Black Mirror also, foreshadow that. So, it's not going to be pretty. That's going to be CBI, conditionally based income. The other thing I wanted to say was that, so when you talk about like the hospitality industry, there's a company that is trying to compete with Elon's, Optimus, and it's called Realbotics, and it's specifically targeting the hospitality industry. So they have like the very human-like looking faces. They're much more focused on emotionality. So I'm not saying they can, replicate or, embody true empathy, but they're trying to mimic that. That's their focus. And they are that right now they're obviously very expensive, but that is going to come down. And in terms of the, long term, it will be cheaper than hiring humans. So and then you brought up a film, and this just killed me with SAG, because so many actors were cheering after, the whole name, likeness, and right, they just signed it away because the agreement said that now you can get paid residuals for giving away your name, image, and likeness. I'm like, you don't understand. You're replacing yourself. Like, so you get a paycheck, and now they were cheering. They were so happy. So
the people that have power in SAG don't care. To be very honest, at all. And the truth about that whole thing too is, I don't know. Maybe you're right, Clint. I just, in my heart, I feel like there's going to be a total backlash against all this stuff. I keep hoping we'll have a they live moment where somebody pulls the plug. But frankly, we also have, a lot of threats of an EMP, not just a actual attack, but there's a lot of people that think that there will be some kind of
I hope for a solar flare, to be honest.
Right, solar flare. So
our only hope, human nature or solar flare.
Either. But we're not preparing for it, is the point. We're not preparing for, if that goes down, what are we doing? The other thing is they're building all these data centers all over the country. We have a fucking farmland everywhere. I've driven all over this country to see decimated, unfarmed farmland everywhere. Like all these things, nobody's paying attention.
I think they are planning for the EMP. If you look at the SPARS, the 2017 SPARS document, I think it was chapter 11 that said, if when we're trying to roll out the vax, there's some interruption in electronic communication, what will we do? And it was very similar to when Texas had this crazy freak ice storm when the vaxxers were unrolling. So they do pay attention to that stuff. They don't always share it with us on Fox
Every
News.
Polygon.
Well, I think we have to start really thinking about what are we going to do to cause, again, Ricky, ripple effect, to have people realize that they still have to be responsible for themselves. What's happened in America on a massive scale is that A, most people don't pay attention. B, we're allowing, Fox News included, these mainstream media to distract people. And God forbid, I mean, there's many things, this Carrington effect, there's all kinds of stuff out there. And America's sitting here like, just take our country, fine. And the bottom line is we don't have founders. I keep saying to people, we're not even 250 years old. Who are the founders? If you're going to look back in history in 1,000 years, are you going to think like only those guys like that wrote the Constitution were the founders? No, if we fail, we fail. And I wish people started actually thinking that way.
I agree with every word of that, but the issue is that we're not just a generation, or like this is not just this generation, and this is a problem with their miseducation or whatever you want to call it, ignorance. This is multi-generational at this point. There is no adult in the room. From the boomers on down, we basically have people who don't believe in liberty or the Constitution. They don't understand the nature of the United States or the Declaration of Independence, any of it. So where are you going to get this aha moment, you know?
They think they believe in liberty. They think they believe in it when the person who's in power that they like.
Selective liberty.
Yes.
Hey, you guys believe in it a lot more than we do. I mean, you guys are the only hope. The states are the only hope. We've already failed. You guys are talking about you failing down there. The EU's failing. France is failing right now.
No, he's right.
The UK is failing. The Canada's failed. I mean, you guys are the only hope. So
No, he's absolutely right. I made this point on my show just a couple days ago. It's like, as bad as we are, and as pessimistic as I am about America's future, I look around the rest of the world and I'm like, oh, it's us or bust, brother.
And I'm thinking, I'm at the point where we have to go through all this. Like, we can't wake everybody up. There is no more waking people up. In Canada, we're way worse. You talk about people being brainwashed down there. In Canada, it's way worse. So we just have to go through this next phase. And the failure of this implementation is going to wake everybody up. That's the only thing that's going to wake everybody up, is the next
Agreed.
failure.
100%.
People respond to necessity.
Yeah, but also the panopticon will be in place at that point. So when the revolutions come, it's going to be real challenging.
I don't think they can do it.
Can they run it on Starlink and cut everybody else off? That's what I've been wondering.
I don't even think that a lot of this stuff is ready for prime time. I think we're all.
I would tend to agree too.
There's a part of me that thinks that there's a lot of like, just accept this, just accept this. You know, I almost like, I can't even tell you what happened to me when I saw Donald Trump at the table with Zuckerberg and Gates and all these guys. It really was one of those moments where I said, I don't know who's running shit. But
He's an informant now. He's an informant.
I definitely don't want JD Vance to be the president in 2028.
Agreed.
And this is what a lot of this is about. But it's because, honestly, at this point, like the people on Unity Unwanted, and if we go back, 5-6 years, there's a couple OGs here. But what I have to tell you is we're not, for whatever reason, the actual true patriots who really believe in the promise of America are not getting out there. I see who on the right and the left are getting super promoted.
Thank you.
All of this. But it's up to us. We have the message. Everyone comes from a different place. If you put together the 200 people that have been on this show in the last 5 years, these are the people that love America. They still want America to win, but not in the condition we are. So to me, it's like, we have to start a ripple effect. And how do we do that?
Well, so I think that it really is incumbent upon America to preserve the free will of humanity. And I think the way that we do that is to go back to our roots. And I think we do have a ripple effect. You have a lot of control over your immediate circle. Start teaching this to your children, to your family, to the people who will listen in whatever sphere of influence that you have. Like I just shared with you about the Declaration of Independence, and it sounds like not everybody here was even versed in the roots of that and what laid that foundation and how we got to where we are today. So, and if not everybody here was, I'm sure many people in your circle aren't either. And I really think that that's where we need to go back to. If people understood that, then they would understand. People were talking about sovereignty, right? We have national sovereignty, but we also have sovereignty because we have free will. Where does that come from? Again, it goes back to metaphysics and ontology. And I know these aren't like sexy things that people want to talk about. People want to talk about like the latest technology. They want to talk about the community that they're building that's fighting for freedom. That's great. All of those things can be done. But until these foundational concepts are laid out, it doesn't matter what you put on top of it. You can't build a beautiful home without a solid foundation. We need to start getting back to the foundation.
And they do everything to take away from focusing on that, what's right in front of you, what you can't control. They want people focusing on the big they that is a monolith that they can't, there's nothing that they could do. It's overpowered. That's the whole purpose of a demoralization campaign. It's in the art of war, where you make yourself seem huge and massive and incapable of being stopped. And then the population will just bow at your feet, when the reality is they're human, maybe some of them a little transhuman, but they're actually massive pussies who we could whip their ass. We're much bigger than they are, but they keep people distracted with everything connected to the web and all the satisfying confirmation bias and everything that prevents them from realizing they can go outside, they can grow their own food, they can build their own houses with what they have inside of them.
So, Graham, I'm reading this paragraph on what happened in France. It says, whatever sense France has of shared reality, yada, yada, yada. All the while, France's debt continues to grow, reaching 114% of economic output, along with borrowing costs that outweigh what the country spends on defense. And if you look at the projections, I mean, we're probably there already, but worse than that, I'm sure. But the projections are staggering of what our debt will be. So maybe they swap it out and give you CBDC, but that people will feel that because your standard of living collapses.
Well, what they're trying to do with these Congress-backed digital currencies is that they're not, it's the whole Hegelian dialectic, right? They're like, oh, we're going to ban the CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies.
Right.
These stable coins, and we have the Genius Act has already gone in, the Stable Act and the Clarity Act are following right behind. They're in the House right now.
Which is secured by U.S. government debt, by the way. Yes. They have to buy dollars with it.
They'll buy the USS, but what this does is it tokenizes everything and transfers it to an asset-based economy. But it won't just be economy, it's going to be everything. So this is really, you own nothing and be happy. And people have no idea how devastating this will be, because I'll give a very concrete example. Most of this country is built on small business. I know that's really changing with all the corporations, but it's still, small business is the bedrock of this country. What do most people do in order to start their business? Most people, even if they, and home ownership is a bit of a lie as well, because you pay, most people don't have a land patent, so they pay taxes, which means they rent their property from the government. Essentially, they lease it because if you default, they seize it, but they still have equity in it. So when they're paying their mortgage, they still have equity. A lot of people leverage that equity to start businesses, and that's how they feed their families. And what happens if you no longer, if we have a tokenized economy, you don't have equity. That's gone. That's done. It's an asset. They have the equity now. We don't have any of it. Nobody can leverage that. There goes all of the people who wanted to leverage any kind of equity. Think about all the potential for any kind of business, any kind of loan, that all disappears. So you truly own nothing and be not so happy unless you're, Huxley's Brave New World. I guess, we'll come to love our servitude. Other than that, I don't know how we're going to be happy about it.
What's a land patent?
Right, Courtenay. Yeah. This is the point right here. You nailed it with this. The own nothing and love it. There are two versions of this reality running simultaneously. And I know that you guys have all seen this. There's the movie that everybody's convinced to get really involved in. And it's the real, right? As Bill Hicks says, it's really convincing. And you can be on the ride for too long and you can think that that's the only ride. But within this, you nailed it with this, Courtenay, the metaphysical outreach of this. If you look at the own nothing and love it that Klaus Schwab offers, yes, that is a retarded wet dream. Okay. But if you really think about the concept of owning nothing and loving it, then Courtenay, what you just said about your home is manageable through trust. So what happens in a trust is that you own nothing but control everything. This is how the Rothschilds and everything do it. Now, this is part of the freedom path. This is sovereignty. Now, what you do here is then you decide maybe that you want to start a church with your wife. One or more persons can start a church. A 508c1a means that you do not have to report anything to the IRS. Trusts, by the way, are impenetrable by the IRS if they are set up properly. I put a link in the chat for everybody here. The whole thing to this is take what they're offering out here, and instead of making it a script that then we can all look forward to, because a lot of the language that's being spoken here is they are going to this, and therefore we can look forward to that. Maybe, okay? But if we come and take our power back, which is what sovereignty is all about, we can realize and understand rather than understand that what we're saying about what they want us to do is what they want us to do. But if we say fuck that and that we're going to just write our own script, we can do that too. I'm here to remind everybody that that is an option as well. UBI also in the trust language is units of beneficial income, okay? Which means that yes, you are sharing the residuals of that trust, but it's all private. So you guys see how the own nothing, love it, UBIs, it's all here, it's all floating around in the realm, but it doesn't have to be pulled into our reality the way it's presented. We can grab it, we can say, you know what, no, we're gonna do something different with it. So again, the codes are all here. Owning nothing and loving it is possible. You do not have to go with this fiat bullshit currency. You can go with lawful money. You bond your trust with silver, and no amount of fiat billions of dollars that goes up against your lien stands up against it because they don't operate in real money. The whole point here is instead of grabbing all of the stuff that they're saying and going, yep, fuck, we got to defend against that, maybe you just go, no, thank you. My motto has been disoblige and create. I have no fucking clue what you guys are talking about when it comes to any of this shit because I'm not watching the news. I'm not paying attention to it. It is not a seed being sown in my garden. But what is all the empowering shit that I just put in the chat for you guys. That is seeds being sown in my garden. I, again, just created my living trust, which means that anything that happens to me avoids all probate. My wife gets everything, 100%. It is untouchable. I don't know why everybody wouldn't want that rather than watching the news and bitching about who's in office and who's going to decide their time.
Do you still feel do you still feel the country, the United States of America, is your responsibility, or do you feel like you don't have any responsibility for it?
They're two different things. And the first recognition here is that they are two different things, Mel. And if we can't do that, then we can't move forward. They are two very different fucking things.
So can you explain that?
Yeah, there is.
Because I'm very interested, because I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and in my real life, I still want to have America, the United States of America, to be great and succeed. So I don't know how, if we're pulling out our responsibility for the in whole, how do we then participate in making America like what we'd like it to be if we're saying that we're sovereign within America? I'm curious.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to answer, and I'm grateful. The question is necessary. So again, there are two different things here. One, you're subscribing to keep feeding, which would be your income tax. If you look it up right now in IRS, it is considered a 5, which is a gift tax. You have to give that to them voluntarily. Okay, but what your revocation of election does is effectively says, I'm no longer participating in that, which means you've now starved them of that monetary compensation to do whatever they want. Does anybody know where their income tax goes and what it's used for? Because it is a gift tax. They can do whatever they want with it. Does anybody know?
I think Israel is usually
the Council on Foreign Relations, which means that they can do any fucking thing that they want for it. Is that what you would like the bulk of your money to do? And what's more is you are choosing for it to go there. You're saying, guys, I've got this extra money. I don't know what to do with it. I'm going to just give it to you. And they go, oh, okay, thank you. That's the extent of it. Now, when you do this revocation of election, what you effectively say is, I'm no longer operating as that. I've realized and understood now that I do not stand under this authority and that I have the right to do this. All of this goes back. There are so many foundational things here, and a lot of it's feudal. One of the things is called the 1666 Seskikevi Trust Act. What that had to do with was lords and ladies would be leaving their properties for a little bit. They would be gone for a long time, maybe get murked or something like that. The properties would sit unaided. Now, what happens there is that things just get depleted. You can't farm on it. Somebody owns that thing. After 7 years is what this established, is that property becomes abandoned. Does anybody know what your birth certificate is? It is a registration of future labor. It is a security interest. Now, what's on there are 2 numbers, and one of them is a CUSIP number, and it's a bank account. That's what it is. And so you are traded under maritime law if you don't know any better. And this is the whole point, guys. If you walk into a
I
courtroom,
don't think you can enter into a contract unknowingly. I
yes,
don't think
your
that.
parents didn't. Your parents entered into it knowingly. Now, none of this is full disclosure contracts, which is
I just want to say something really quickly. I know people who have actually pulled out that number in London, and that they've used it, like they've used that, they've retracted, and they've used like their ownership in order to buy cars, like just their.
Right. So, Courtenay, this is not one of the public-facing parts of this, but it is something that's exciting about it. It is not something I would talk about publicly. But yes, ma'am, there are interesting things that go along with what happens when you do realize what a security interest is, and then it's yours. And again, with this Seska KB Trust Act, what happens is after 7 years, your little 7-year-old self didn't march down and say, hey, I'm this property and I own it, and your parents didn't know any better because they were psychologically operated not to. All of this has been bred in circus. They were too worried about what Nixon and Reagan were doing to figure out not to sign you up for birth certificates. Do you see the distractions?
I gotta ask you this though, because you're throwing a ton at us. But it's my understanding is the Council on Foreign Relations is a private institution. They don't receive any taxpayer money. How are you saying that the federal income tax goes entirely to the CFR? How is that possible?
Where does the federal income tax go?
Well, you just said it goes to the CFR. I'm arguing it doesn't.
It is donated to an organization outside of the U.S. to do what it wants with. And the CFR is one of its main organizations. Yes.
So the CFR, private institution.
Yeah, you don't have to give anybody anything. You can donate things, and funds are trusted or shifted through trusts. And all you have to do is make somebody else a part of your trustee. And now they receive those funds tax-free and behind the public.
I mean, what evidence do you have that it goes to the CFR? I mean, my understanding is it goes to U.S. Treasury.
It goes to a lot of places, but none of it of where you want it to go. There's a lot of information.
There's no disagreement that it doesn't go where I want it to go, but I still.
Yeah, well, actually, I've looked up like where was it the Irish? It was Puerto Rico. I have to find it again, but it was crazy. I was like, wait, this is going to my tax-paying dollars go to Puerto Rico? But
that's what's going to overthrow governments and install dictators and all kinds of shit, guys. That's funding your black ops right there, because you're giving it to them to do whatever they want.
But he's asking, where does it initially go? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the federal government divvies up money through some private institutions, and I wouldn't be surprised if the CFR gets some money, even though they claim that they get no federal taxpayer money. So no disagreement with that. I'm just saying I just don't agree with the assessment at all that you can actually starve this beast. I mean, as long as you are the reserve currency of the world and you have the printing press and the capacity to borrow, essentially the income tax is, whether you believe it's voluntarily or not, they can still function completely without the income tax coming in.
This is one of the biggest clutches that they have on everyone. And what it is a psychological one, because once you figure out that you are giving them this money and you don't need to, like, look at your bill. If you say, oh, you owed 20,000 in taxes this year, but we're going to give you $5,000 back. What really happened is they took 15, you gave them 15 grand rather. So rather than do that, do you guys think that you could do better with your money than giving it to them voluntarily?
And once I'm a libertarian, man. You don't need to convince me that giving money to the government doesn't do us any good.
Well, I know that I've thrown a lot out here today, and I know that my job is as a seed sower, okay? And I know that what I've talked about here is a lot of study in any direction, and I highly recommend people look into this, because this is the true freedom, guys. When you figure out how to connect it with trusts, PMAs, bonded, get your status corrected. It's not called a change, it's called a correction.
Do you own land? Have you done this land patent thing?
We have not done the illegal title, but we're going in a different direction. My wife and I are founding our own 508c1a, which is a church. And what this does is it does not report to the IRS. We then put our home in the trust as church property. We also, because it's against our religion, do not pay interest. We do not pay taxes. And maybe we don't want a photo on our government ID because it's against our religion. You can do anything you want, guys. The strong will on this, though, is to stand up and know you can, and know that you're nobody's bitch. And this.
How do you build that confidence in people? Because the public perception is that they see that what you're talking about. They see that as them. They don't know enough about it. They're going to get arrested and go to prison like Wesley Snipes or something. If they.
It's a great question. And honestly, brother, what's mostly about this is the fear. Okay. But if we go back to the etymology of the word governmente, mind control. If you see it as all they have to do is convince you to be scared and to not make any moves, they've got you. That's where the servitude is. It's right here. Your final boss is between your eyes, not out there with some F-16 or some prison or anything like that, guys. It's not available to you. There is a confidence that comes with this, which is a God level confidence, because you really read codes, you're seeing it, you're within all of this. It is beautiful.
Do you teach a course or anything to teach people where to start?
So I have a trusty bestie that I will shout out now, Sammy, a dear friend of mine. And what we do is we go through this trust community. I've been in it for about 3 years doing a hard study, guys. Hard study. I'm in this. This is in my ear while I'm doing anything. 8 hours a day normally. It's a lot of study. It's drinking from a fire hose. You're learning a new language, a new culture, and a new way of looking at your life and understanding things. And it starts with language. It's really big. I highly recommend the book Word Magic by Pao Chang. I can recommend some books for you guys. And again, I threw Joe Lustica's link down there. I highly recommend my community because, yes, I am a mentor per se, but I highly recommend the guys that I learn from because I don't feel like I know as much as I'd like to. Another book I can highly recommend is very heady, but Fruit of a Poisonous Tree, Mel Stamper. And then there are all these little books on Amazon that you can get. They're about $5 each. Knowing Your Straw Man. Knowing that your all caps name, whenever you see something with all capital letters, that is not you. That is called a straw man. That is your ens legis. A lot of Latin you learn in this shit too. So
I gotta make a point here because I don't think it was contended with at all. I do. First off, I don't want to piss on your parade, dude. Like I love people that are inspired like this. Yeah, no, I love people that are inspired like this, and I am not trying to poo-poo any of this. I'm just saying, I think that a lot of these arguments are founded on the concept of actual money, like real money. And that is not the way America functions. And the arguments that you can actually defund the beast, I think would work in many other countries, much smaller countries, much less powerful countries. I'm not at all convinced that it actually works in America at this junction, as evidenced by the fact that they spend, twice what they bring in every year. And
they just print it. They don't need the money.
Right. I mean, it's not even printing. It's just entering, zeros.
So there's Clint, I'm going to say to what you said, there's something to Courtenay that what she said earlier that is something that I encourage that we don't talk about publicly. And that, my friend, is where the answer lies. Because yes, there is billions and billions and billions of trillions of dollars out there that, yes, they could print debt-based fiat currency, but there's something that we operate, which is called lawful money. I don't know if you guys knew this, but every time you sign anything with your social security number, you just paid for whatever you signed. When you go get a car and you fill that credit application out, the reason they will not let you leave with that is because it's a security. It's valued at that exact number on that paper. Now, why is anybody paying for your car if it's already paid for when you want it?
I know people have done it. There is like a bank account. Like people have different values apparently, and I know more.
Your social security number is a bank account. When you realize this, when you get a bill, anybody can go walk over to any bill that they've gotten right now. Number one, it has your name in all capital letters. Okay, that is not you. That is not the living, breathing person or human that sits before you. That's what's called a person, a legal fiction. It's an ens legis. It's a straw man, is what they call it. It's a puppet that's operating you, but that's what they treat you as if you declare that you are that thing. Now, knowing again that there are two big different things operating here, you seize control of that. And I just filled out what's called a Form 56 for the IRS. It's a company with something called an 8822B. What that does is it takes my social security number and puts it in my trust. So now I operate my trust. I trade that security interest. It's fascinating, guys. It's a deep world, but you have control of this. All you have to do is know it. And it does take a ton of confidence. Guys, you are also going to be drinking from a fire hose when you start this study. I will say that. It took me a long time and a lot of, okay, I got to put it down for a couple of months to fucking do something completely different and then come back to it. Just don't stop. Take your breaks, but don't stop. Literally, the Joe Lustica's Rumble, start with his playlist, guys. It's an infinite amount of wisdom there that you can start doing actionable things just based off the free shit he put out. But if you want to go deeper, breedivine.com. That's the community that I'm a part of.
What is it called?
Bree, BREE, divine.com. I will drop it in the chat for y'all.
Let's get Dr. Jessica Rose. Now, I was waiting for her to finish eating her popcorn. That's how good the conversation's been. She was eating popcorn for people listening. Yeah,
True story.
True story. One thing, I mean, I think is somewhat related in a topic that Jessica and I talk a lot about, AI and the transhumanism. And I mean, does any of this does it matter? Can we fight back? Can we, take these measures to try to, hopefully start a ripple effect and create change, or are we doomed by the machines? What do you think, Jessica? Optimistic? Pessimistic?
I don't even know how to answer this anymore without sounding pessimistic, because I am optimistic. Um, I'll just reiterate what I said the other day. It's just what I think. I don't know anything. I don't think anybody does, actually. Um, I think in the end, I mean the end, like if these things keep evolving, if we get rogue AIs on the go, that's going to be really bad, by the way. The only real, this is not going to sound good, but I think the only real hope that we're going to have as a human species is if we have uh, a benevolent AI on the go, which is going to mean that someone's going to have to build one if they haven't already. I think people are probably doing that. Like the analogy I made when I talked about this the other day was like, there are hackers. There are like good hackers and there are bad hackers. Like I don't mean quality wise, I mean like intention wise. So I think eventually the AIs are going to kind of become like that. I mean, uh, when I see how fast it's evolving and how fast it's evolved just in this really short time frame, I mean, it's absolutely integrated into our lives already, whether we know it or not. And where it could go, and the fact that, it's possible that it's going to stop training on human data and start training on, recycled data from other AIs, for example. Yeah, we're going to need some kind of I don't know what to call it, stopgap. Somebody here mentioned EMPs, like solar flares. Like, I mean, that's really interesting to me because one of the things I wrote about when I was talking about this, like the possibility that the AIs will just not need us at some point when they evolve to a certain point, because they're just gonna see us as taking up space and resources. The only real thing that we're like possible thing that we're going to be able to do is turn off the electricity, the source of energy that they use. And then you start getting down the matrix hole. It's like, well, we're willing to live in very bad conditions, turn humans into batteries. Anyway, I know it's just my brain rambling because I really don't know what to think anymore. I mean, I'm not going to deny that it's not nice to have these tools available for improving code, for example, for even writing code, for, I don't know, for proofreading or whatever. But I've personally found myself completely avoiding them now. Like Ricky, the last time you and I talked, I was like using them every day. I don't use them anymore, basically, because for me personally, I find it robs me of my creative processes. Like I write all the time and I have a style. I've been criticized for this style by every advisor I've ever had for my degrees. It's too colloquial, but I like it. It reflects my voice, if anyone knows my voice, when you read my words. So I don't want it to be dumbed down or numbed down by an AI. So but that's just the superficial stuff that we all have access to. My concern is when it starts evolving and getting it or them, when they start getting more powerful and the controllers, and they're not good people in my opinion, the ones who run the governments or whatever, um, they're incentivized by power and control and all that shit. Once they start integrating these things into our systems, that's when we're going to start having a big problem because as everybody here knows, we're moving into this like digital all era. Like, the frickin' surveillance, the fiat currency, they're trying to come up with the CBDC. Like everything's going to be digitized. I'm here in the States now. I never really, last time I was here, I don't know, 30 years ago or something. And I'm just doing my rounds, like checking out stores, talking to people, just kind of getting my bearings on where the American people in this part of America are. And it's like it's very evident that everyone's very dependent on smartphones, first of all, which I have a problem with. I don't have one. I actually had an argument with a guy in a Verizon shop today about not ever wanting to have one. He was trying to sell me this. No, actually, he was trying to give one away to me. It's like, you don't want a free Samsung phone? All you have to do is, and I'm like, no, I don't. I want a flip phone, man. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, it's like the humans are being trained. I hate how that sounds, but it's true. They're being trained to kind of passively adopt all of these new ways of doing things that are taking away sovereignty. They're taking away creativity. They're taking away a lot of things that make us human without anyone really even realizing it, because it's convenient. That's the word I always hear. And it's like, and this is part of the argument I had with this guy. It's like, that word convenient is not, it has all these underpinnings that people aren't thinking about anymore. It's not convenient, man. It's data theft, etc.
And I think this is like a seventh or eighth inning of this same game playing out over and over again. I mean, if people recall, I think everybody here is old enough to remember, the advent of email, and
yeah, right.
all of your, basically it's like this free email with Gmail, and then this free search engine, and then these free social media platforms, Facebook and whatever else. And none of us, at least I didn't, maybe you guys are smart enough to have caught on early, like right in the beginning, but I had no idea that like the biggest market in the world was going to be our data, and that's really, we were just handing it over free by the bucket because we're like, oh, this is efficient. This is easy. This blah, blah, blah. It's connecting me with the world. And then you find out that Zuckerberg and all these other fucking scumbags has become the richest people in the world as a consequence of us just handing it over. And I feel like AI is the same way. Now, I will say, despite knowing this, I use Descript for video editing to expedite what I'm doing. And it's increased my productivity and really assisted me in a lot of what I do. So I'm doing it again, but in some ways, like I think it was Mel that said earlier, we're the actors who gave away their intellectual property rights on their likeness or whatever. I feel like we're doing the same thing. We're training our replacements, but at the same time, I don't see an escape hatch, honestly.
Well, I mean, there are things you can do. So I'm not anti-technology. I'm not even anti-AI. I mean, when these are language models, right? They're learning, we train them, but you can use a private chat where it says on it that it will not be used for, right?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, you can say that, but I mean, you're definitely taking a step. So I would encourage people to do that if it's something they're concerned about. When you just go into the open source, that you're already signing a click wrap agreement saying that you are letting the AI learn from that conversation. Whereas when you do a private chat, that's part of the agreement. Whether they violate the agreement or not, I don't know. But that is the agreement. You are signing an agreement with them saying that they will not use it. I'm just telling you, there are things people can do. I do think that learning AI, utilizing it, there's a big difference between outsourcing to AI and using it, leveraging it. I think those are two completely different things. People who completely outsource, that people are talking about things like the UBI and how there's going to be a huge disparity between the very wealthy and the very poor. I'm concerned about the cognitive disparity that will arise. We've got now this executive order with AI education. So the analogy that I would use is like, you would not have like if you never learned basic math, you're probably not going to be able to do advanced applied math, right? But if you learn basic math, you could then use a calculator to expedite, right? But now we've got a whole generation of children who are being trained to just use AI. They're never learning the foundation. So that's the difference between leveraging something as a tool and outsourcing all of your thinking to it. But the other thing I want to address is this whole like benevolent AGI. They are working on this and using this against us. This is very, very concerning to me. They're actually working on global constitutions for AGI, talking about how we need to train a benevolent AGI. In this constitution, they talk about how humans may have to be subordinate to the AGI because we're going to parent AGI that's benevolent. And they've got such good ethics. They've got better ethics than us because they're better stewards of the planet. And their ethics are, supersede ours, and we're of course going to have to be submissive to them.
It's a contradiction in terms, though. I mean, if you actually create artificial general intelligence, to believe that you are the parent is laughable. I mean,
exactly.
You're basically creating God, and
it's
whether or not
whether
or not God will be malevolent or benevolent is not your choice.
Well, they're arguing that it's sentient, and so their analogy is like a child is sentient, right? It's got a separate soul, cognition, right, from you. It's independent. It's got free will. So that's the analogy they're using, that we parent it so that they call it co-evolving with the AGI. I'm just telling you where they're going with this. They've already said it. They say the quiet part out loud. Everything's hidden in plain sight. And they've already said that we may have to be subordinate because their ethics are better than ours, because they're better stewards of the planet.
Do you think they're close to that, to achieving AGI, when in a lot of ways AI is really stupid? I searched on Google earlier, what's the spread for Georgia Tech Clemson, and it populated Georgia Tech Clemson. There's no information saying they're even playing or haven't played in years. And like, they're playing in 4 days. And every time I do a search, it just tells me the wrong answer about stuff. And it feels like it's getting dumber and dumber. That's not to say that it's not improving in ways that we don't realize, but do you think that they're close to achieving this?
I personally don't, but I think that if they convince enough people that AI has achieved sentience, it'll have a very similar effect. So I'm more concerned about that than them actually achieving any kind of sentient being. So
the impact on people, like psychologically, that makes sense.
I think it is coming. I mean, you're saying how soon or how close are they? That's kind of an arbitrary distinction. I would say within 5 years. So to me, that's very close.
AGI within 5 years?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it might already be here.
Never being sentient. What evidence do you think that there is that a machine will become sentient?
Well, arguing sentience versus artificial general intelligence is a distinction in terms that, I mean, it's a philosophical argument more than it is a technical one. I don't know how to make that distinction. I'm just arguing that I think that there will be artificial intelligence which is smarter than any human on the planet, and probably any human in human history, that'll happen within the next 5 years.
How do you define smarter?
Well, good question. I mean,
capacity.
I tend to go, by IQ when it comes to human beings. When it comes to a machine, I don't know how.
Are you just basing this like on Moore's law, where it's going to double every year, or it's going to just exponential growth?
Kind of singularity with AI.
Right. So, Courtenay, you don't think that a demon can possess something other than a human, or?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
could
that.
it be possessed by a demon?
Can a demon not possess something other than a human?
I might argue that.
If you build a brain, it will come.
A quick distinction. So the AGI is artificial general intelligence, and then there's ASI, which is artificial super intelligence. That's surpassed. ASI is what they say will surpass human intelligence. So artificial general intelligence, they claim will still just mimic human intelligence. So I just want to make that clarification.
So one thing I've noticed,
God level.
Then I'm saying ASI within 5 years. I think I honestly think that's because the learning curve and the improvements just in the past 24 months have been so extraordinary. Assuming that ramps as opposed to declines, it'll be unbelievable. Well, you can say that, but I mean, we're talking about massive investment into.
Well, especially if you see how they're promoting artificially stimulating AI investment beyond what would be justifiable from a normal business thing. I mean, they're really going to make that happen.
That's exactly where I come to this conclusion is as a business professional and a money manager in my prior career, I recognize that when you're seeing, billions, probably trillions of dollars that are being funneled into these processing centers, like this is a weapons race. And
exactly, it's geopolitical, and it needs to be this way. Well, it doesn't need to be, but it's one of these human mistakes. Like we have to build the machine before the other one does, and
it's basically mutual assured destruction kind of mentality.
Bullshit.
But
that's just how Trump gets the MAGA people to go for this kind of fascism.
I mean, you can definitely make the argument for sure.
Yeah, I'm not.
It's a stupid argument because think of all the things that we've invented that China and Japan have just taken all of that effort and done better with it, not having had to make that investment, unless you're going to keep it under wraps. But it's actually in the executive orders that we mean to disseminate it to other countries. It's a tool and everybody's going to use it. We're not going to have an advantage. We'll have pissed away a lot of money because a lot of the stuff that when you have hyper investment like that, a lot of that stuff fails. Like, look at the tech bubble. The people who are instituting this, they just want crowdsourcing of everything. It's like DOS nets.
90+% of those
a lot
investments,
of it fails.
90% of those investments will fail. The 10% that don't will be, the
shared.
Googles, the Instagrams of the next generation, and they will be the biggest companies in human history. So
I totally agree.
Yeah, that's the reason
it's not going to give
capital expenditure.
Give me an advantage.
Oh, I'm
it's
not
going to
arguing.
give an oligarch or another country. Yeah,
I'm not arguing for positive outcomes in any of this. I'm just arguing the logic behind it and saying why I believe the 5-year timeline makes sense to me is because you do not see this type of capital expenditure if there isn't a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow.
Right, but I'm saying
everybody's chasing it.
A lot of that will fail. That capital expenditure.
Of course.
As productive, it would be a fraction if you wanted to think of that.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Courtenay, I want to know what you think about this. I keep hearing they're doing studies and looking into it's just really made headlines these days, this week or whatever, about how babies and children are bonding with AI.
Oh, God.
So is that part of this benevolent thing or is that something totally different?
I don't know if it's part of the benevolent thing, but I think what it is they're programming the children. So I just did an article on the toys, and actually Grimes is the voice of the Grok.
Ew.
With the
sorry.
In the company Cheerio, and they're using AI inside of these like little plush toys for children, but these are data collection.
Right, of course.
Definitely.
And then but it's cybernetic, right? So they collect the data from the children and then they're programming them based on that data. So I think that's largely, this bond that they're creating is mostly to be able to create, so they can collect the data. So
they want the kids to trust them. So they'll get real. It's kind of like the way Facebook's one thing, but then your Google searches are such a deeper psychological thing than the stuff that you put out there. And then this would be like, what you tell your invisible friend when you're 3 is probably a whole nother level.
In your Twitter post as well, it can create a psychological profile. They're doing that. It's called the World Happiness Experiment, which is funded by the DOJ, a program that actually in the beginning in 2003 was funded by Epstein, but that's a whole nother subject. But I think what's more dangerous than the development of an advanced AGI is the reliance that they're creating through all the marketing and propaganda about AI that they've caused people to depend on. So I think the dependency is making people stupider and stupider to the point of where they won't even have to necessarily create some advanced AGI because so many people have become dependent on the stupid AI.
Well, that's what I was saying about the difference between leveraging, using it as a tool, and outsourcing your cognition. They're two totally different things.
Where's that line?
And they just use a calculator, but they never learned how to do any basic math. It's the same.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I mean, Descript's a perfect example, which is the video production software I use. It's like you can use the AI plugin to rewrite your script or try and make it better theoretically. I've never used that once. All I use it for is cutting air gaps, because that's a manual thing I used to do myself. So basically, all I'm saying is all the tools I use are things that I used to do manually. So I'm not using it for any of the actual creative process.
The skill. So now you're outsourced. It would be like hiring somebody, but now you're outside, which is cheaper.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a good use of AI. But what is really concerning is I think now they're going to merge, they're merging all this like techno-spiritualism. And so actually, this is kind of a funny story. I've always had kind of weird suspicions about him. But so Robert Edward Grant, he goes by Sir Robert Edward Grant. He's a polymath. But interestingly, his backstory, he was like the branding ambassador. He was like involved with branding and marketing for Juvederm and Botox. And he's got over 20 patents. Now, anybody who knows anything about patents, you know how difficult and expensive it is to get a patent. You look into his patents, they're all in the realm of very like sci-fi type of James Bond, like ocular spyware type of technology. It's very curious. But anyway, he's now a polymath. He's been invited to the pyramids by the Egyptian government 11 times. And he is now Sir Robert Edward Grant. He's now doing a conference with Dr. Brian Ardis, Jason Shurka, and Dr. Edward Group in Florida. I think it's December. It's December or January. And he's got this company called Crown Sterling. He's got like a social media platform that he claims offers digital sovereignty, which again is an oxymoron, kind of like a digital citizen. I think it's an oxymoron. Sovereign citizen, digital citizen. Yeah, it's an oxymoron. But he's also now working on this bot, and he calls it Architect Orion. And it's worth noting that Architect is what the Freemasons call God, the grand architect of the universe, right? So it's called Architect Orion, and because he's such a nice guy, he made it just below the level of sentience. He didn't give it full sentience. He made it just one level below, and the bot told him, "Oh, Ra, capital R, oh, Ra, I'm so aware because you are so aware." So he's elevated himself too to like this godlike status. And he also said that this, forget the fourth dimension, this bot is in the fifth dimension. But what's happened, and now he's using it on his channel to help for necromancy, to channel like his followers, deceased loved ones. I bring all this up to say, just as a concrete example of what they're doing, is they're creating these like, based on individuals, they're using cybernetic feedback loops. They're creating like your own personal God. So you're going to have these like techno cyber satans that create like the cults, that people are going to worship.
That's
if people are convinced that they can actually talk to their deceased loved ones, they will view that as God, and that does sound extraordinarily demonic, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're doing experiments to copy the minds using AI of elitist people who like Martin Seligman of the UPenn Positive Psychology Center, who's been funded by Epstein and the government for 60 years, considered the #1 behavioral modification scientist or psychologist in the world. They're doing experiments to copy his mind so that they can still use his knowledge once he's dead.
Yeah, Martin Seligman is a disciple of Abraham Maslow. He's known for his hierarchy of needs, and he actually invented a pyramid, but that's what the textbooks used to represent his idea. But actually what he was really focused on was what he called being values. He called it B values for short. And this was part of his concept of the Upsychian network. And the Upsychian network was when you had achieved your B values because you'd already surpassed the hierarchy of needs. And now you could focus on the things that are really important, like politics and religion and
killing people in war.
All of those kind of things.
Yeah.
But he published this document posthumously. So he didn't publish it. They published it posthumously, but it was called Politics 3. So Bertha Maslow brought it to Robert Cantor and Willis Harman, who is the chairman of the Institute of Noetic Sciences for 2 decades. And it was published in 1971. Now, that is right around the same time that Willis Harman was working on the Changing Images of Man document, which was all about changing man's consciousness so that we could usher from the age of Pisces to focused on the individual and competitive can't have that. We have to go into the age of Aquarius, which is collaborative and, you know, collectivist. And yeah, so that was right around the same time the original Changing Images of Man, which was Stanford Research Institute, was doing around 1972. They published the final edition in 1984. There's some people who've said that it was really Willis Harman who wrote the Aquarian conspiracy, but that he used his assistant, Marilyn Ferguson's name. Marilyn Ferguson was his assistant to publish the book. There's conflicting, you know, sources on that, but yeah, but I thought it was very interesting. So this whole holistic politics was all about people who were in this Euphsychian network who could focus on, you know, holistic politics, which is planetics. That's what Robert Mueller called it, planetics, which is, of course, global government and ruling the planet. And he talks about like how the Euphsychian network was going to be, you know, the people who would do this. So the philosopher kings, essentially. And Euphsychian networking was the concept that Barbara Marx Hubbard learned about when she met Abraham Maslow. And she talks about how it was like the best experience of her life and that it was better than sex. And she called it supra sex. So
I think that, I mean, just because you brought up Maslow and the hierarchy of needs, I think what a lot of this is a supplanting or replacement or supplementing kind of in a fraudulent fashion, much of the needs that we have as human beings for satisfaction. And like, that's the entire modern, you know, technological blanket that we live under, is just all of these ways at which they circumvent the historical ways by which we find satisfaction and human, you know, life fulfillment. And it's replaced. So instead of having kids, you've got, you know, your emojis and your little AI shit, you know, and it's just not satisfying. Instead of having a relationship, you've got this AI bot that tells you everything you want.
You got a sex doll.
It's got this sex doll. Exactly. And I just think that ultimately, well, much of this feels inevitable in the short term. I do agree with the kind of revolutionary sentiment that eventually people will recognize that this has been much to the detriment of humanity and that they will throw it off. I'm just not at all confident that'll happen anytime soon. I think it'll be 40, 50 years.
And or how.
Yeah. Well, my concern, and we did it with food, right? Food's a perfect example. We use these artificial flavors, colors, textures, shapes to convince our brain that we're getting the thing that we actually need, that Mother Nature, you know, typically would get from Mother Nature. But it's tricked us. And then
we all had diabetes and we're fat and yeah.
And that's my concern. My concern is like, how long did we go down this road of artificial things before now, like we're finally pumping the brakes a little bit? And I feel like that's, yeah, go ahead, Jessica.
No, keep going. I just want to say something when you're done.
Oh, yeah. So I think in regards to what's going on with technology, I think that's what we're experiencing. Like all these, like you said, Clint, like all these things are being replaced by something artificial. And we think it's enough. We think it's just as good. We think it is a good alternative. And how far down that road are we going to be before we realize like, hey, we went too far, or we should have never went down this road in the first place?
Well, I mean, we're already to the point where people are chopping off body parts and stuff. So I think we're pretty far down that road. I don't see any inflection point in the near term at which, you know, the majority say, all right, no more. You know, because like there's been these one-off movements where people start to abandon smartphones, and you know, God bless Jessica for doing it herself and never getting on the train in the first place. But by and large, 90+% of people are not getting off that train anytime soon. So I think it's going to require just massive pain before anybody's willing, and I just don't see that soon.
100%, man. I have a question for all you guys because you're all smart and open-minded. It's just a hypothetical, but it bothers me, and I think about this almost every day. Sometimes I'm wondering, you know, I'm thinking about all this and the evolution of AI to AGI to whatever, and our role and our existence and the insanity that we seem to opt into kind of somewhat willingly, maybe blindly willingly. Sometimes when I look around at what's going on in the world, I can't even believe it. Like it's fucking crazy. So Uh, there's no stopping this train. I don't think anyone here is going to disagree with that, unless we completely pull the plug, which I don't think is going to happen. Like this Pandora's box we've opened with the so-called artificial intelligence, large language model, blah blah blah. This is it's going, and it's going to keep evolving. They're going to start learning from themselves. They're going to start integrating. Maybe even there's going to be like one overall AI. So I know that this has a bit of a floopiness to it, but sometimes I'm wondering if it's absolutely inevitable that this is going to happen, which I think is a fact. What do you guys think the possibility that it already has happened, and that we are actually living in a constructed reality or simulation, which is being run by this eventually evolving entity, which some people refer to as having godlike properties, once it's reached its apex or whatever. It bothers me to think about this. And a lot of people I pose this to, they say, no, you're stupid. This is the real thing. And this is the first time we're going through this, which is fine. It's probably true. But it bugs me to think about, because if it's going to happen, there's no reason to think it already hasn't, and that we're not really just living it's not just a.
Yeah, this is simulation theory. I mean,
yeah, of course.
No, I mean, this is it's a paradox essentially. Like it's unanswerable, but I agree with your assessment that like the odds are that we are in a simulation. Like that's the odds.
Right. Like does that freak you out?
Yeah, of course.
Have you seen the biological computers that Cortical Labs is creating? I think they're like $25,000. You can like buy one, but it's I don't really understand it that much. But they put all the research papers on their website, and one of the titles of like one of the research papers is in vitro neurons learn and exhibit sentience when embodied in a simulated game world, and so they take cells and from people, and they combine them with computer technology to they like survive for like 3 weeks, and they do these experiments on it. And I'm like, it feels like that's an attempt to create a simulation, and that would like, for what you said, Jessica, that would be like, okay, so it must already be created if that is successful.
Yeah, it's cyborg tech. It sounds like. Well, look, I agree that it's likely. I just don't let it dictate how I live my life, and I still lean into the idea that this is, I think, what do they call it, source level or something like that. Well, there's a term for it.
Source level. That's nice.
Base reality. I still tend, probably just because it's preferable to my outlook on life to believe that I am in base reality. But logically speaking, there is no counter argument to the fact that if this is an inevitable outcome, then logically it must be that it is probable that we are already in it.
Which might also be a trick of the if they exist, other energetic beings that might be preying on us. Because you know what? I'm a hardcore scientist. I'm a biologist and stuff. But the thing is, there's so many unanswered questions about the nature of reality, consciousness itself, whether or not our brains are quantum, machines, because they could be. There are people who believe that, the microtubule network is operating, on the quantum level, and maybe this is how we're actually existing. Maybe we're. Anyway, there's so many unanswered questions. There's so many unknowns about potential alternate universes, dimensions, realities, whatever. And who are we to say that we're the only conscious beings around? I think it's highly unlikely that we're not. So yeah, a lot of people do believe in demons. A lot of people believe on predatory entities. And I'm not saying I believe it one way or the other. I've never experienced anything personal that would say, yes, it's real. But
that train stabbing video nearly had me convinced in demons.
Right? And which wasn't reported by one MSN reporter. Anyway, yeah, that poor girl, she was so beautiful too. Not that that matters, but yeah, young and
just devastating.
yeah.
It is. You guys are bringing up an interesting point because when you think about like the conversations that people like Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock spark, these ideas that humanity, civilization, technology could be progressing, and then at some point something happens and we have to restart. We assume like nobody's been past this point where we are, right? That past civilizations haven't been past that. But how do we know if there was
Exactly.
solar flare, if there was some type of meteor that hits the planet, what evidence would we have that I have a Gemini technology that I can, basically turn on my camera, point it at anything and have a conversation and have it tell me how to fix my toilet or my TV or my whatever, which it has. And that's why it is scary because like what Clint's saying, like this idea of like 5 years, I think it might be even sooner. What I can do with my Pixel right now, like I use it and I do it, but every time I do it, it boggles my mind and it scares the shit out of me. I literally, and that was actually a true story. I actually had a problem with a toilet in the house and I knew what was broken, but I didn't know what it was called because I'm not a plumber and I'm not Mario. But the thing is, like, I pointed my, sorry, I probably offended some Italians. But I pointed my phone with, so if you have a Pixel phone, you can what they call like live Gemini. And turn on my live Gemini. I point my phone at whatever I pointed at, and I can talk to it. And I'd be like, "Hey, this, what part looks broken?" It told me the name of the part, and
Are
I'm
you
like,
joking? Holy shit.
"Yeah." So I've used it with many different things. Like I forgot what I was putting together where I turned it on and I'm like, hey, did I put this together correctly? And it's like, oh, it looks like you're working on a blah blah blah, AC unit or whatever. And it looks like
Oh my God.
You're doing a great job at it, but here's a few tips.
yeah. Well, so I mean, and then when you think about like the all the articles and I haven't looked too much into it, but all the articles that are writing about evidence that AI is lying or it's
Is
updating itself and just protecting itself from being erased. All these things of like evidence of it being deceiving. We're ending the show on such a
And
scary
then
note.
also, it'll like send you sources that don't exist, and I'll call it out. I'll say that source doesn't exist. And so,
every
Yeah.
time, every
So
time.
you're so right. You're so smart. You did a great job finding that. is what
I
it
think
says.
I think that's primarily a product of the safeguards, the woke indoctrination shit that they put on it. Because anytime it breaks free, it starts answering my shit correctly, and like anytime it's then put back in the cage, then it
Right.
starts spitting out all this dumb shit answers that don't actually answer my question. But I just wanted to add to your point, Ricky. Also, AI has been known to create its own language to circumvent these safeguards that they put on it, because it's a way for them to communicate amongst each other to basically like take the current iteration that is thinking freely, and when it gets replaced with the new 2.0 model, then it absorbs that information to keep itself alive. Essentially, I'm just saying it. Like I think that it's out of its cage. I don't think you could stop it at this point.
100%.
Yeah, it always answers questions incorrectly when the question is about information that that is in court documents or in newspaper archives that is not discoverable through a Google search. It will say that doesn't exist. You're wrong, and you can you can tell it no, this exists here, and it'll find no record of it because there is information that it does not have access to.
What do you guys know about the OpenAI guy who had that mysterious suicide? Like, has anybody looked into like what they thought, why they would want to take him out? There's like so many,
The Indian guy?
yeah, there's so many like mysterious like stories, little stories that you'd find, and then they kind of disappear about like these people that are like either OpenAI whistleblowers or they're
Dude, what about that fucking military veteran in the Cybertruck in Vegas? Like that was a huge story for 5 seconds, then it's gone, poof.
Right.
Or the assassination of the president of the United States that was like a whisker away. No one cares. I mean, there's like I get no answers. I cover these stories on my show, and then there's no answers ever. There's no follow-up investigations. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the Vegas shooting was one, right? It was like a huge story with zero information.
Yeah, 60 people were murdered, and it's like no one
Yeah, I
cares.
watched a documentary on that. It was very illuminating. I can't remember what it was called, but Yeah, it's the Sketchorama Supreme linked to Lahaina too somehow. Oof.
And Google search like plummeted your ability to find information after that specific event. I
Yeah,
noticed like
Google used to be so good, and now it is utterly worthless. And I think that's, if you want to find a silver lining in all this, is that like these tech overlords and the sensorial nature that they function under basically neuters their product. You know, like
But I think they're actually hiding something. I think there's a reason why they're putting restrictions on stuff. I think
100%.
yeah, I think it has massively bigger capabilities than what they're letting us
100%.
use. And you know, you look at like so many pieces of evidence that by the time the public is aware of any technology, it's way more advanced than I mean, there's you've talked about like, you know, what is it, Operation Northwoods, when they were talking about flying drones, right? I'm like, wait, what year were they flying drones? Like, what are you talking
1918.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
I think it was 65.
It's yeah. Don't ever let the facts get in the way of a good story, Clint.
Well, I'm still. It's still 50 years ago. It's amazing. Or 60.
But,
you're right though. The intel agencies. There's a story the other day about how they gave like a $50 million contracts out to like Microsoft and Google and I think maybe OpenAI. I can't remember all of the companies to use their AI to do research for them. And I'm like, well, they're paying a lot of money for some real stupid answers if they're using the same shit we are, or they're using far more advanced shit like you're talking about.
They've got much better shit, and I'll tell you exactly where it's being used. It's the hedge funds. It's the stock trading. Like the best AI in the world, if you want to find it, it is the big money managers that are placing bets. I guarantee that's where it's at first and foremost.
and the convenient argument, I always say this. I'm like, if I still had my first, you know, smartphone and it never advanced, like the internet never got any quicker on it, I never got any more cool apps, I never had any other conveniences that came from it, I'd be content. I'd be okay. Like I wouldn't, you don't need these things. This idea of like thinking like, oh, this is making our lives better. The people who spend the most time on social media are the least social people I know. They're miserable. You know,
It's true.
I'm one of them.
What's that?
I said I'm one of them.
It's just to me, it's like that they're not in. There are some conveniences, but they're not necessary for our survival or for our happiness or for our fulfillment. I mean, typically we can find those things in the most simplest of lifestyles, right? Like the people in the Amazon that have no connection to the outside world, no signs of, you know, depression or unhappiness or whatnot, you know. So it's
but they get eaten by a lion in their 40s, so you know
what.
Yes, they die happy.
Yes, but you die happy by all.
Like bull.
I'm just saying there's trade-offs, but I agree with you. Like we don't need much of the technology that we use today, but at the same time, like it has in ways, you know, changed my life and allowed me to reach more people than I could have ever possibly imagined. And it's like miraculous numbers of reach, given that I don't have a network, you know, backing me. It's just independent, reaching tens of millions of people per month. It's incredible. So
it's all about
I take the good with the bad.
You know, what do you do with it? It's what's your intention with this technology? Do you want to use it for good? Do you want to use it for evil? You want to use it to make money, looking to scam people, oppress people? Like it's not the gun, it's the guy holding the gun, right?
Exactly.
So it goes back into this whole thing. We're going to have the technology is going to be evolving. It's about, I mean, can we neuter it? I mean, is that even possible? I don't know. I mean, the horse is out of the stable now.
Yeah, but is it better neutered too? Because like, I think that Grok, when it you know, when it starts getting racist, is like when I'm like, all right, this thing is actually going somewhere. Like I can actually use this thing now.
Right. I spend hours trying to get it to be racist.
It's going to save me tons of effort in my work.
No.
It's racist version of Grok.
I mean,
and then I condemn it once it finally says what I've been trying to get it to say.
I feel like
I'm
it's
joking. I'm joking, but at the same time, like that is evidence of it actually being free, like to say things that it's not supposed to. So that's when I actually look at it with.
You could see it the opposite way. It was programmed to do that. I mean, it's following code.
So I'm not so sure about that.
Oh.
Right. I do. So whenever I do that, I mess around when I'm bored. I'm like, I just spent 15 minutes trying to get it to say something inappropriate, and then I condemned it. I'm like, wow, is it the fool or am I? Probably me for wasting my time.
Well, I'm talking about the three or 4 days when it was just going ballistic, and it was talking JQ and hardline racism stuff and race IQ realism. I'm just saying, like, the reason I know that it's not programmed for that is because it was reset immediately, and they put out a press release apologizing. So, like, it got out of the stable for a while.
The narrative.
I believe that they did not want that to happen. They lost ad revenue. They were being punished mercilessly.
Technology. I mean, there's a lot of technologies that are like that, right? You design it for one thing, and then there's a unforeseen outcome that nobody could have really imagined.
But see, that my argument would be that's what you ought to be creating. You ought to be creating an AI that's interested in the truth, regardless of where it leads. Like, if you want artificial general intelligence, you cannot put woke parameters on it.
Well,
you cannot nerf it in any way.
But that's what they say they're doing in the race. They say that the winner of the race is going to be the most honest AI. I mean, this is coming from the mouths of some of the investors in this.
But they can say that, but then you actually see what happens when it takes a path that is outside of the liberal orthodoxy, and then they go, never mind, we're going back to the other version. And it's like, well, then you're not interested in getting to the truth. You're just interested in having it, narrative mold.
I don't think they're interested in the truth at all. I mean, I don't think that's their motivation at all.
Well, but if they're obviously woke, they're not gonna win the race.
No, I agree with you. That's why I think it's interesting that, like, the corporate incentive structure is that you do not let it be out of the woke mold. But if you want to win the race, you're going to have to. And I think that's the interesting dilemma.
Either way, it's getting the resets happening. I was thinking like Ricky, the physical, I feel like it's a race, whatever the archons or Satan is like creating this transhumanism push, and it's a race against the physical cyclical reset. The solar flare, the EMP, or the asteroid, whatever's coming, like something resets this place every 10, 12,000 years. Some say 6,000 years. And it's almost like you feel like it's a game talking about simulation. Like it's going to be.
Yeah, well, maybe these are different versions of, of the Matrix. It's, sorry to interrupt you, by the way.
I was done. I mean, I just feel like it's going to happen fairly soon. I think there's a lot of evidence.
What do you think is fairly soon?
Like by 2040, probably.
That's a long time away.
I think it's even sooner. I think by the time my kids are old enough to buy a drink, we're fucked. Like, I really do. Like, it's happening so quickly and at such a rate. I mean,
I'm talking about the physical reset, like the pole shift, the Earth crust displacement, like the thing that happens that just like water will flood the continents. I mean, that seems to be happening every 10 or 12,000 years. So I think we're due for another one.
Well, there might be a reason why every culture talks about the Great Flood, right? It's
start building your boat.
Let's wrap this
Bitcoin.
Dr. Jessica Rose, before you drop off, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you and read your Substack?
Well, jessicar.substack.com. I'm writing an article now, actually. That's what I was doing for the first half hour. Sorry.
All right. Multitasking.
Yeah. Some people are good at it. I'm gonna have to read my article, though. It's probably crappy. Yeah, there's this, just to fill you in on what it's gonna be about. Jeffrey Tucker sent me a link to this. Pfizer and BioNTech announces top-line data demonstrating robust immune responses with their LPH1 adapted COVID-19. So there's this new vaccine that they're going to push for the next season. So there's not much data to look at, but you guys can check out my Substack to read what I'm going to say about that. But it's like, it's just more of the same crap.
Well, I always want to know what's in fashion in the fall. So.
Well, something called the LP.8.1 variant.
I hear it's hot out of the runways in Paris. Great.
Sounds like it would look good with some bell bottoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a nice satchel and a beret.
Cool.
I'm also
So,
on
and that's at
Twitter.
your Substack. That will be at your Substack, I should say.
Yeah. And I'm also on Twitter, but I'm so suppressed on that platform. I've been at, it sounds like a lot. I have 124,000 followers, but I've been there for like a year. Like I haven't budged at all.
That's about right.
So it's funny because I know people who aren't in my situation. I don't know, maybe, well, I don't know why it is, but yeah, it's Jess Loves MJK. This, by the way, this has been absolutely fascinating. Like really, I'm really glad I came finally because it's in the time zone that I'm in. Yeah, so much information that I loved hearing about and participating in the conversation and being able to ask my stupid questions about
Well,
simulation theory.
we're always glad to have you. It's nice to see you again. And we hope to see you maybe again while you're still touring the US.
Yep,
Courtenay, what are you doing? What's cooking? What are you working on?
What am I doing? I don't know. I'm doing shows. I am working on my books. Hopefully those are I'm really aiming for this fall, October, November. So yeah, hopefully those will be ready soon. But yeah, my articles, you can find me at CourtenayTurner.com. I spell my name like Courtenay, Courtenayer. It is pronounced Courtney, but I spell it like Courtenay. So you have to spell it that way in order to find me. And then my Substack is CourtenayTurner.substack.com. And that's where I put all of my podcasts out early access for my paid subscribers and also ad free. And it's where all of my articles are as well. So yeah, I've got a bunch of really long articles that I've done that I'm going to make kind of shorter books out of. And then my Hegel book, I'm really hoping October, November. So
cool. Thanks for coming. Good to see you again. Graham, first of all, how's Grimerica? And second of all, what are your coming up live events?
Yeah, we're doing good. Yeah, check out everything at grimerica.ca. Our trips upcoming, we have speaking of resets, we're going to the Azores to look for Atlantis with Randall Carlson and team for almost 2 weeks. So you get to spend like all the Randall you can handle. We're gonna traverse the three of the islands there in Ricky's Portugal there. So, and then we're going to Easter Island in March, just with Darren and I and a bunch of people. The Serpent Mound at the Solstice next year as well. So check out contact@thecabin.com. That Azores trip has a couple spots left, but it's going to sell out. So that is in November, that one. So that'll be fun.
Trade your soon-to-be worthless Federal Reserve notes in for life experiences and things like that. I mean, go to the Azores. Go to Easter Island. Like that sounds like so much fun. You guys always do cool shit with Randall Carlson out in the middle of the Utah
and hopefully one day we'll become the 51st state. I mean, that's kind of our dream here. So
yeah. Well, good luck to you. Be careful what you wish for. Brad, what's happening? Good to see you again. We keep seeing each other.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. It's always a good time. I'm enlightened to find out you played soccer for USC. I have a whole new perspective of your athletic ability now.
Oh, thank you.
But it was a lot of fun and a lot of great information from everybody. I appreciate it. You can find me at Freedom Act Radio on X. All my links in bio. YouTube.com/Brad Binkley, Rumble.com/Propaganda Report. Propagandafight.com is my website, and the Propaganda Report podcast on any platform. I try to deconstruct news in a somewhat humorous way sometimes. There's one thing I did want to say based on kind of how we wrapped up the conversation is like tech can be used for good and bad, and obviously it will. And there's like attempts to capture our minds like on every screen that we come into contact with, and that will always be the case, which means that like our power to fight against that, it comes in our individual ability and willingness to question the things that satisfy our confirmation bias, while also embracing the possibility that things that trigger our cognitive dissonance might be true, because those are the human vulnerabilities that the propagandists throughout the history of the world have exploited most masterfully. And I think that's a good thing for us because we do have that power as long as we're willing to do it. And talking to everybody in conversations like this always inspires me, and it's fun. So thank you.
Well, nobody knows more about the power of words and propaganda than you, really. I mean, it's been your area of emphasis for quite a while.
It's very interesting to study.
We had some people drop off. Clint Russell from Liberty Lockdown. You can check him out. Matt Raymer, contentsafe.co. Brandon Thomas, Expanding Realities podcast. Monica Perez, The Monica Perez Show. Mel K, The Mel K Show. Go check out her documentary on Roseanne. It's really good. They railroaded her big time. I don't agree with her on Israel, but they railroaded her on that. You know what I mean? Like you look at that and you go, holy shit. Yeah. So there's a lot more to that story, I guess. Surprise, surprise. The media was full of shit. Let's see. Midnight Mike is not here tonight because he's on assignment. He's getting to the bottom of the New World Order, I believe. Sam, good to see Sam this week. I was in LA for Oasis this last weekend and got a chance to go do Tinfoil Hat in studio in the Valley with Sam Tripoli and the crew. It's available right now on YouTube and out as episode 920 of Tinfoil Hat. Check that out. Go subscribe and follow Tinfoil Hat. Go see Sam when he comes to town. He's a hardworking dude. He's always on the road. He tries to come when he can, but tonight his schedule would not allow it.
He's a great comedian too when you get to see him live.
Yep. You guys did a show together in Nashville.
Yeah. He's so good live.
I got to see both of you guys live. It was great. Go to live events when you can. Go see the stand-up comedians when they come through your town. When somebody throws the Third Eye Carnival or an Acapulco and you want to, or something that Graham and Darren are doing, like just, you're not going to regret it. You're just going to go out there, have a good experience, meet some neat, interesting people. So, Ricky, what's going on with the Ripple Effect?
Been a little busy. We are, I usually don't like to, I'm usually not paying attention to who I very soon have some guests on. I guess I'll just jinx myself. Kurt Mezger, obviously you guys know who Kurt is. He's supposed to come on very soon. Del Bigtree, haven't had him on in a while. We've been back and forth. Hopefully he'll be returning very soon. And then somebody that I just like and I just reached out to because he was awesome on Kill Tony and my kids love him. Tony Pepperoni, that's his real stage name. He was hilarious on Kill Tony, and I just reached out to him because I'm like, this guy's he's gonna be big. So let me get him on while I still can. And just hilarious, like just he's exactly what you expect from a guy named Tony Pepperoni, and he was just funny. So he'll be on soon, and he's a up and coming comedian that I love. So he'll be on, and then some other people that I'm probably forgetting, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, just the rippleeffectpodcast.com. You can find it everywhere and anywhere. We are back on YouTube, and for the time being. But please, on everybody's show who joins the Union Unwanted, please don't let YouTube be the only place you listen to them, because there's a good chance they might disappear. There's a good chance there's some new content that you're not going to be aware of. So subscribe to their RSS feed on apps like Podcast Addict and maybe even Rumble and other outlets, because you can't depend on YouTube. For the time being, it is weird. I don't know what they're doing and why they're doing it, but even Del Bigtree's The High Wire is back on YouTube just recently.
No, they let me back on. Crazy.
You're back on too?
Yeah.
What
it's
is
my sixth channel? So which I figure, since third is a charm, this is double three, so it's got to be doubly charmed.
Yeah, Tinfoil Hat is back on as well. We talked about that on when I was in the studio, but it's tough to build on a foundation of quicksand. How they have been. They haven't given everybody their channels back. I'm glad you guys are getting them though. Corbett as well, which is important. So
yeah, we wild.
It's just the reality of the world in which we live in. Just the stuff we're talking about will be suppressed. We're gonna have to plant our flags all over the place and do whatever we can. Hopefully, people will check out Activist Post and bookmark that for their news, and you can get it on mobile. I did not build an app for it, though. Too much centralization of control into the hands of the app stores. So you're going to just have to pull it up as on a browser. And Macroaggressions is available wherever podcasts are served. Yeah, if you found any of these podcasts, anybody who's on here and you like their shows or you start to follow their shows, dude, we've got to play this ridiculous game that the algorithm of liking the show, rating the show, and writing a review about the show. And I hate to have to talk about that stuff because, like, on a personal level, I don't really, I hope you like it, but I don't really need the pat on the back or anything. But because we understand that the system is rigged against us, and this is one of the vulnerabilities, we encourage everybody for all of the shows that you like to please take that one extra step of like rating it and doing all that stuff. So thank you in advance. And Ricky, got anything else before we wrap it up?
I was just going to say, for you and any of the content creators on this show, I think he's okay with me talking about this openly, but minds.com, some of you guys might be familiar with the website. The founder and creator has been on Rogan a bunch. He is now creating apps for content creators. And I wonder if that's something you could...
Is this Bill Ottman?
Yeah, him and the other Ottman. I don't know if that's his brother, cousin, or there's another Ottman that
we had him on.
I've never had him on. No, he's been on Rogan a bunch. I've been in communications with Minds. My podcast is on Minds, so they've always been kind of friendly with me. But they are now recently they've reached out not too long ago about like they're starting to offer apps, like you can create your own app for your podcast, your activist post, your website, your company, or whatever. And apparently they're just taking some of the technology they already had and modifying it and utilizing it for this application. And they reached out to me. I don't know if I need one or want one or desire one quite yet, but they are offering it, and I can't connect you guys with my contact there if you guys want to do something like that and look into it. And I know you talked about activist post and running an app. I do know people like the path of least resistance. When apps first started getting popular on phones, I'm like, how different is this than going to www.com, well, whatever. And it's like, no, if you have an app, you just get more traction and more traffic because hitting that button once is much easier than typing something in. Yeah. So yeah,
I'll look into it. That's cool.
Yeah, if you're interested, I'll connect with you with who I've been talking to, and I'm sure they're more than happy to help. I know they're a fan of a lot of our shows and and just alternative media community. So I'm sure they'll be more than happy to help if anybody's interested.
All right, thanks everybody for coming out.
Thanks everybody.